What's up, family? It's your boy Gerald. It is the 5th of April, 2023. How is everybody doing? First and foremost, I owe you an apology. This is the one I didn't realize that the actual full video that I put out yesterday, because normally how I create is very simple, it's very organic. It's because first and foremost, nothing is written down. Everything that comes from here comes from my heart, directed from the Most High, and that's how it's always been. But it wasn't until this morning, as I was going through traffic, because I have a way that, well, I've got the YouTube apps embedded in my deck, in my system, in my Jeep. So what I'll do is I will, at that time, I'll just cut it on after it's uploaded from my phone onto YouTube, and then I'll just listen to what I had conveyed on the camera. And, you know, my commute is almost 30 minutes from where I live. And I'm at the light, and I'm just listening to what I was conveying. And then I looked over at my display, and I noticed that the camera had it upside down. I'm like, this is not a Far Side video. Why am I upside down? And then I realized that when I paused it, I actually was putting Ming up in his kennel. Matter of fact, Ming is right here. Yeah, let me see if I can do it. Yeah, there he is. And it was time for him to go to bed. He tries to be a trooper whenever I'm home. He's like, look here, just I'm with you. And so I'm a strong component when it comes to when they say that pets, but especially the loyalty of a pet. That's my fur baby. You know, I've been very blessed throughout my life to have many companions through my journey of becoming, you know, being a man. As far back as my very first dog, which actually I still think he was part wolf, because he was a huge, huge black shepherd and had these red eyes. Named him Spike. Loved that dog, but unfortunately he got sick. But through it all, through every adversity, every disappointment, every fear, every insecurity, that symbolism of the loyal dog was there in my life, no matter what. And before I go back into what I wanted to convey from yesterday, I wanted to share this. Some of you have been with me for a very, very long time. And if you just are discovering my channel, first of all, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to view my content. There is no words that I can convey of gratitude to you, because this is social media. There are plenty of content out there that you could have invested your time. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But on a different note, just a caveat. Some of y'all remember when I had Tyson, and I had him for a very long time until I transitioned here. And he, I would also discover that he had heart issues. And so I had made the decision that that having him travel along with me and then get on a flight would be too hard. So once again, God stepped in, and one of my former colleagues would adopt him, and he's doing well. Last time that I communicated with my former colleague. But this video is pick up from what I was discussing last night. And actually, the title, because this is supposed to be part 2, but actually, the title just jumped in my spirit, and I could hear it in my mind to title it, "To fall forward, you must no. To spring forward, you must fall back." It was just echoing in my spirit, which only validated the continuance of my point from the first video. Now, I don't know what happened, because the original video was supposed to have been 51 minutes, but it stopped at 28. So I'm just going to leave it right there and say, well, if it was just meant at that point. So I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to try to be mindful with time, and I'm going to get to the point. So on last night's video, because tonight, right now, when I'm recording this, it's approximately 9:34 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, which geographically we are 6 hours from the East Coast, 3 hours from the West. So there you go. There's your 6. So I was talking about the presence of social media and how not a lot of creators are, I know, right? You hear him in the background, like, I know, he's a ham. Oh, he's in there snoring. He's knocked out. I'm trying to, yeah, he's knocked out. Yeah, you got to mind junk, family, because I'm actually moving stuff around because of the one thing. Since I've been here, I didn't put on about 25 pounds. I used to, when I got here, I was a lean 222. And granted, because of my stature, I'm 6'3". It doesn't look bad. However, when you start getting that little stomach, okay, you need to cut back on the Popeyes, cut back on the burgers. Even though for the most part, I eat very clean. But you get bored. But anyway, let's stay on task. So if you look at society and how information is being put out, it is very, very obvious. You can tell after the first 30 seconds to a minute, there's an underlying narrative being projected out. Hopefully that the consumer or the viewer will consume it and embrace it without critical thinking. And that is very, very dangerous, because you look at what's been in the news this past week, the plight of our currency, and how there's a possibility of there's a new form coming out. And this is not about politics. This is not about economics. But the point I'm trying to make is those things are meant to trigger you. No different than social media. And some people that have established platforms know that, and that is why you may hear the term that has always been around, shock jock, Some people may say, oh, they're just rude or condescending, or there's no empathy. There's a reason for that. And that's why I mentioned out of 85%, I would say a close 57% have no content. It's all regurgitated with a spin. Where am I going with this? What I'm saying is they have found a strategy that monetarily benefits them without taking responsibility of what is being conveyed to the listener. So some of them are proverbially faking the funk, while others are misinformed. And then in that percentage, there are some that have a direct agenda to unfortunately influence those people that are impressionable to. You hear him? You hear him snoring? Yeah, I'm about to put him in the kennel. So I'm gonna put him on. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I actually put on some, in the background you're gonna hear some royalty-free music found on YouTube. You just go on your search engine right above, and for those creators that are looking for background music, there are plenty. Just find your vibe. So let's get back to what I was saying. So you have folks out there that have an underlining agenda based off of experience, and they're using that as a vehicle to influence the impressionable. Now, depending on your exposure, your life, where you are in your life, and the wisdom that you have embraced, we can also agree that there are people that genuinely are not thinking about the consequences of their actions. They're not thinking about conversations put out over the internet and who's going to listen to it, who's going to take it in. You know, I use this parable that we all know from our childhood. You know, you think back when you saw something of influence on TV or in your environment where you know, and you said, I want to be just like them. I want to have that. You know, that's because that comes from a place of innocence. So in 2023, our future generations are at risk. And I kind of understand through behavior where the millennial generation may feel a certain kind of way. But it is going to be the millennial generation that are going to have the greatest impact on the generations to come that we will not have the pleasure to witness in this lifetime. So it's very, very important that we pour into this generation and establish the dialogue one conversation at a time. It's very, very important. But how can we do that? We can't do that until we're able to have a conversation with ourselves. That is why there's so much division in the world today. That's why there's so much calamity and angst found right outside your door, because society has convinced us through time that your emotions don't matter. Your life is supposed to be on autopilot. But we've all heard the parable of life is meant to stop and smell the roses. Proverbially, that you can say the euphemism of roses can be a descriptive word of your memories, your victories, the moments that you felt whole, the moment that you smiled, the moment that you truly embraced your emotional stance. And the real question that should be asked is why you don't believe that you deserve that. That's for someone. You know, I that's one of the reasons why when I put a video out, I always make a point, first of all, to never have a judging heart. You're not going to get that from me. Because I did learn, I truly believe, because I get emotional sometimes. I believe every person at the sound of my voice deserves to be appreciated. They deserve to feel safe. They deserve to express their uniqueness. But most importantly, truly know what it feels like to be loved. So how do you do that, Gerald? How do you embrace love? Because society has convinced mankind, humanity, that you got to go out there courageously. But they never tell you what to do when you fall short. Who am I talking to? They never tell you what to do when you are in a fragile state, when you are proverbially at your wit's end. You know, like you've heard people say, you need to have the same energy that you have in the beginning as you have in the end. But what they don't tell you is how to properly navigate through it. It's always a speculative viewpoint. And sometimes it's condescending with a splash of cynical. And that is such a cheap form of disrespect being offered. Let me tell you something. I remember when I was at my lowest point. I remember. And I can't tell you how many times tears fell from these eyes. I can't tell you. That's why they're baggy right here. Because I've always believed, ever since I was a little boy, that if I can dream it, I can be it. And the one thing that I always wanted was to be loved. So I made decisions and put myself in positions to people that truly didn't even deserve to hear me breathe. But see, I was reared in my childhood to always turn the other cheek, always see the good in people. And even though my mom, my dad, they instilled their wisdom in me the best they could, there was still a disconnect in understanding. And I know that that was one of the reasons why I always questioned the world. You know, if you think back in your childhood, you may remember there was a stage in your life when you always would say, why? Why is the sky blue? And someone would respond and you would say, why? It's not because you want to be a pain in the butt. It's because you truly want to know how to fit in. Make it make sense. So, with that being said, make it make sense why you don't believe you deserve to be loved. Make it make sense why you believe your self-worth has no merit. Make it make sense why the burdens that some try so hard to bury deep down inside, but indirectly shows in your behavior every day. Make it make sense. And it doesn't do us any good because some have adopted a practice of going to social media for understanding. Some go for validation. And usually it's usually those people that go to social media for validation, it's because they're trying to justify a behavior that they shouldn't have done to begin with. And they're trying to make peace with their conscience, which that's another thing. Why are so many people afraid to go within themselves? You know, they say, and I'm going to start making a point that when I make statements that I have stats, even though that is like the flavor of the month right now, because people think that because their talking points, their stats with it validates their point. It doesn't. It truly doesn't. Hold that thought. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So that always puzzled me because I'm like, now in 2023, we are at the most advanced stages of technology that you would think that whatever that you needed to do at a click, at a swipe, at a drop, in real time, you can, every answer that you need, it is there, literally at your fingertips, But yet, as advanced as we are as a society, some of the things that are free, we find it unable to do, like communication. I remember when the people in your life that had the most influence, you had a little phone book. You had to memorize those phone numbers, especially because I came from the generation of what we call the latchkey kid. So you learned at a very young age because your parents are working. You learned what being responsible was. So I'm looking at the generations now, and I can truly say unequivocally, Generation Z were the first to embrace the analytic the analytical mindset, and start to apply it. But it's the millennial generation that, unbeknownst to them, mastered it at a young age. That's why when you look at children today, when it comes to education, in some of your communities, and I could be wrong, I don't know, but for what I've seen, most of them don't bring books home. Most of them don't do homework. And it's like they almost have a photographic memory mindset, and they keep it moving. It's kind of like almost like, how can I say this? Like being on a assembly line academically. It's like you learn this, okay, on to the next one. And some of y'all may already understand that, because some of you that have your degrees, you know that. You know what I'm talking about. You go through the course, you master it, you take the exam, on to the next course. And only a percentage of that is retained. Because unless you're going to apply it in the job market that you're going to pursue, it's not tangible to hold on to those things. So, where am I going? It just seems like we're forgetting as a community the moral compass that binds us all together. The little things. So why are you talking about the community, Gerald? You know, the community is not roses and daffodils. I understand that. But imagine how different it would be if people made a point to have that discussion, to identify what mattered for them within themselves before they made decisions outside their door. That is why when you look on social media today, they talk about things that don't better you. They talk about things that really is nothing but a descriptive variety of consumption and distraction. That is why if you have a question that is truly heartfelt, most of them will not engage. Most, it'll go right over their head. They're oblivious. And I heard someone say, well, how can someone have a dialogue when they haven't lived life to understand? That is why it's very, very important for the generation that has to demonstrate it. Now, because we live in a world of free will, it's your choice. It's your choice how your story is going to be told. Because we're not promised to see tomorrow. And it's really, really sad. My Generation X folks, my Generation Z folks, have you noticed all the unnecessary deaths that have happened? Have you noticed that? I remember growing up, and even though I wasn't directly impacted, but I remember that when I was growing up in D.C., how drugs could wreck a family. I saw it. I saw the effects that it had on the community, internally and externally, let alone the trauma that it has on the impressionable, the young kids. It aged them. It aged them before their time. That's why we're seeing the remnants of a lot of behaviors through the younger generations being exhibited on 10. Why? Because no one, let me stop. A lot of people that had to endure that, they were still trying to figure it out while in motion. And unfortunately, a lot of people, even in that time, lives were cut short. And I'll do this, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, but what I'm trying to convey to you is, whatever your reality is not your end story. You know, you may have heard people say life is like peaks and valleys, and sometimes you may have plateaus. But you got to keep living no matter what. And the one thing that I've learned, because I'm in my early 50s now, I'm at that stage where I'm watching people that I knew, they're not here no more. And I'm like, wait a minute, I just talked to them. You know, so that's why it's very, very important. Even though I know some may say, oh, that sounds so sappy. You better treasure the moments you have. Treasure them. And if you got a qualm with somebody, have the courage to attempt to rectify it. And what am I saying? If you've never seen this video, I truly hope you will. When I was going through a very low point in my life, like I said, I embraced my spirituality. I want to encourage this to somebody who may need this. The video is called The Power of Forgiveness. And just, you're going to have to scroll all the way down through my catalog, because that was 2012. So you're going to have to scroll down. And you'll see me. And I got a red and navy blue polo, and I'm sitting in my parents' kitchen, and I was really in my spiritual journey of rediscovering myself, having the conversations with myself. Now, I know some of y'all say, wait a minute, were you crazy? Listen, let me tell you something. This is all about the process of healing your emotional self. Like I mentioned in the video, the first part, when Pastor T.D. Jakes had the pleasure of being on Robert Glasper's Black Radio album, and he said the first step in healing a broken heart is identifying it was broken. And society don't talk about that. Society don't want you to be your best you. They want you to stay the course if you allow it. And I'm here to tell you, You got far more memories ahead of you waiting to be embraced. You got far more people waiting to love you when you have loved yourself first. The greatest trick out here in society is convincing the impressionable that to get over someone is to get under someone. That's a lie. That's a big fallacy.